Welcome back to the Game Link podcast, everyone. I'm your host, Lebby, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend, Elmer.
Hater hoder. Guess who's not coming off of edibles this week?
We're finally finishing Halo Munch. Finally finishing Halo Month, which at this point is more like Halo Month and a half, because we've all had a crazy few weeks here.
This wasn't Halo month. This was Halo enema and a half. Is the best way of putting it. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, this should have been 4 weeks, but because of various things, being sick and having floodings and a whole bunch of stuff, we're a little late. But this is a finale of us talking about the Halo show on Paramount. We finished it today, and I think we have a lot of thoughts on it. We'll also be talking about Halo Reach, the last Bungie-made Halo game, to go along with this. But before we get into that, how has the last couple of weeks treated you, Elmer?
It's giving me a full-on Halo Reach around is the best way to describe these past couple of weeks, I hate to say. Jesus. No, it's been hell in a handbasket, to be completely honest. While we've had some good stuff going on at the same time, it feels like I'm sitting back here 45 seconds after the last time I sat here. I hate to say it.
Yeah, it's been a long couple weeks. What have you seen anything good or done anything interesting?
Well, I threw up in my popcorn bucket while trying to watch the newest Jurassic Park film, if that counts. But other than that, I've basically been trying to make sure my lawn grows out correctly, and I've been working. That's literally the two things that has been what's crossed my mind since the last time we talked about Halo. So, how about yourself, sir?
Damn. Well, before that, how much of the new Jurassic Park movie did you see?
I want to say all of 20 minutes. I remember Chris Pratt skiing, and then I threw up, and that is all I remember.
I mean, that makes sense though. Well, maybe once we finally watch it, it won't let us down as much as this series did.
So what you're saying is we're going to do an actual series on the Jurassic Park games? So we're going to go through the Genesis as well as the Nintendo series? We're going to go through all the Jurassic Park series?
I mean, potentially. I mean, if anyone was sitting there wondering, I wonder what they're going to do once they watch all the video game movies. The plan is to talk about movie video games.
And considering that I am currently stockpiling all of the LJN video game movie games for NES, that'll tell you that, we've got some shit to talk about.
We got a lot of options there. Once we get to that point, we're just going to pretty much have to pick and choose what we talk about, because there's a lot of shit there.
But, give me about 4 more weeks, and I'll have an original copy of Nightmare on Elm Street that we can literally start that shit out with. If not, I've got Friday the 13th sitting on my shelf right now that is ready to rock, roll, and ready to go.
Well, nice. Okay, so let's see. Last couple weeks for me, so first, Mike Myers the Pantaveret on Netflix. Have you heard of it?
I've heard of it and have not seen anything of it.
I watched the entire season, and there was some. I mean, it's old like '90s Mike Myers comedy, so there's some things that just don't quite land. But it's also old '90s Mike Myers comedy, featuring Keegan-Michael Key, and also Ken Jeong. So it is. I really enjoyed it. I'm not gonna give anything away, but it's Mike Myers playing about 8 different characters with different makeup and stuff. It's a good watch. I definitely recommend it.
And I guess I should say, while we're still on the same topic, the main 3 series I've been watching as of late, I finally got to get fully caught up on the newest season of Stranger Things, Season 4. Oh, yeah. I'm fully caught up on The Boys, Season 3, as well as Obi-Wan Kenobi. all three of them, I like to say, are knocking it out of the park in terms of what it takes to be episodic television. Specifically, Stranger Things Season 4. In this one, it really is getting back to basics in terms of feeling like an Amblin Entertainment film of that era. And I mean, what they're doing with a combination of the storytelling as well as the music production behind it is incredible. And I'm so excited for it to get back to it this next July when they do the final half of the season, where they split it up. I fully understand why they did it that way, and I think it's a great idea. Obi-Wan Kenobi feels like a back to basics form when it comes to Star Wars, especially in comparison to what they did with the fucking Rise of Skywalker, which I'm not kidding when I say is one of the worst films I've ever seen in theaters. It fully helps me to understand that after the basically mishandling they had in the past few years, I can see that, okay, this is what they kind of want to do, and kind of as I said, kind of a back to basics in terms of understanding of the Star Wars kind of structure to it. And then with the boys, they still just keep knocking it out of the park in terms of just, wait, where the hell are they going with this kind of storytelling when it comes to just kind of poking fun and poking the bear that is the pretty much superhero genre. So you know what, I've been enjoying the hell out of that.
Good. I've heard good things about all of those shows. Personally, I've only watched the first episode of the newest season of Stranger Things. I plan on watching the rest. I've been told by multiple people to watch The Boys, but superhero stuff isn't my thing.
You would like The Boys in terms of that, because it's literally just average guys going, you know what, we are literally gonna stuff a pound of C4 up the ass of all those superhero bastards.
As cool as that is, I really don't think I would be a fan of it. Not saying that it's bad, it's just not gonna be for me, and I know it's not. Superheroes, supervillains, this stuff doesn't tickle my fancy at all. I'm not interested. Sorry.
Well, from that I can kind of understand that.
Yeah. But yeah, let's see. So I watched The Pentaveret with Mike Myers. Great. Definitely watch it. Let's see. I spent almost $1,500 on a new laptop that ended up being complete garbage.
No.
Nothing but blue screens and problems. I even completely reinstalled Windows, all the drivers, everything fresh, and still nothing but problems. So that piece of shit's going back. And I'm not going to say what laptop it was, because I really do like a lot of the other stuff that this particular brand makes, and I just want to hope that their other stuff isn't also this shitty. But anyway, so it's been an interesting couple weeks. We're having quite the heat wave in the Midwest here, so if during the podcast anyone can hear our fans or AC running, sorry, not sorry. It's about to hit triple digits in the next 13, 14 hours. So
driving down today, the temperature was 82 degrees while I was driving my black Subaru Outback. So that'll tell you, if anything, how hot it was, considering I had basically 2 cases of beer in the back of my car, and I didn't think the ice was going to make it all the way down.
And it's a lot different than 82 degrees in the
Pacific Northwest or the desert or anything like that. No. This is 80 degrees lake effect.
Yeah, this is high humidity. I think 60% humidity or something like that. So not fun. You walk outside, you're sticky, you're hot, you hate it. You want to die. But
there's a reason I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt right now with basically a sleeveless Tokyo baseball t-shirt underneath it. So if sun's out, guns out while I'm sitting here during the podcast, whoever's watching, don't be surprised.
So with that being said, let's move on to Halo Reach.
You mean the urinary tract infection that is Halo Reach? No.
So I don't know about you, but me and everyone I know personally that I guess not everyone I know personally, but you're the only one that seems to not be a fan of Halo Reach.
I jokingly said that a second ago. Okay. I actually really enjoyed Halo Reach when that game came out back in the day.
I was gonna say this one was one of one of my favorite Halos.
Definitely, because one thing that happened with that game, not to kind of jump the shark in terms of, or at least, jump to where we're going to get to before you get there. When it came to Halo Reach felt like a return to form when it came to being a Halo game that prioritized the actual first-person gameplay, single-player experience compared to the actual multiplayer.
Yeah.
That's what it did.
Yeah, so I'll get into that in a bit. It definitely was a good refresh for the series. But so if you didn't know, Halo Reach was Bungie's last Halo game that they made. After this, all the Halo games fell to the Microsoft subsidiary 343 Industries. Don't get me started, Elmer. So in March 2010, a trailer released for Halo Reach showcasing the game's multiplayer. Bungie revealed that parts of the game's campaign, they revealed parts of the game's campaign and firefight at E3, and everyone immediately got hyped. This was one of the first Bungie games that was going to reach the zero bug release milestone, which meant that during content creation and troubleshooting, if there were any buggy artificial intelligence aspects or anything like that, they would just be straight up removed from the game rather than fixed, because at that point they didn't have time to do any more fixing. But with the end result being what it was, it was fine. I mean, this game was great. So this was after Halo 3. Bungie started developing Halo Reach. They created an internal team to work on the Peter Jackson Halo game, Halo Chronicles, which I didn't even know this was a thing until I started researching this. So, Elmer, you seem to know a little bit more about this than I do.
I remember when that game was first announced, and I was so excited. It was around that same time that game was announced, back in 2008. I remember they were also talking about Peter Jackson working on a combination of both the Lovely Bones film adaptation as well as producing District 9 around the same time. And it was actually going to be under Amblin Games, aka Steven Spielberg's production company, Amblin Entertainment. They were going to actually start reaching out to video games, and this game was supposed to be sort of a episodic story-driven gameplay, which is going to be supposedly along the lines of what Telltale games with The Walking Dead and their Batman series and the
so just interactive comic, right?
Yeah, pretty much. What was it called with what's that game called?
Until Dawn?
No, the other one. The one that's kind of like an Until Dawn, but the other one that's like a big shooter that everybody loves that I only played an hour and a half of, and then I got my ass kicked, and then I forgot about it, cooked dinner, and then I lost my save. What's the name of that game?
Borderlands?
Yes! Yeah, Tales from the Borderlands. That one.
Yeah,
with what Telltale there. Yeah, no, that's actually what Halo Chronicles was supposed to be. But...
well, it was canceled. I don't know why it was canceled, but I'm not mad that it was, because that just sounds unnecessary. I mean, maybe a few diehard Halo fans would have enjoyed something like that. And, I mean, I'm sure it would have been a lot of interesting story, but it's not Halo,
$5 says those are the same people that'll actually turn around and tell you, no, Halo 5 has it has its good points.
Yeah, oh god. Chronicles was canceled, and the team began to work on a standalone expansion project, Halo 3 ODST.
Which I still contend is probably one of my favorite actual Halo games.
It's good.
In terms of both storytelling, voice acting, as well as gameplay in and of itself.
But it was never popular enough, though.
It sadly wasn't, because unfortunately it basically just felt like a Halo DLC. And I really hate to say that with how they put it together and how they released it.
Yeah, so part of the team began working on ODST, and the other part of the team was led by director Marcus Leto. They started working on Halo Reach. They considered a lot of different concepts and approaches to this game. Some of the rejected ideas were just like a straight up sequel to Halo 3. But they eventually settled on a prequel to the first Halo game, and decided that this would take place on the planet Reach during a pivotal time in the war. So pretty much, along the lines of the Paramount series, but actually canon story instead of whatever the fuck this show is doing.
And also on top of that, actual shit happens during this that actually feels like it is in turn concurrent to the story of what happens to with the UNSC in the Halo series.
Actual character development in that game.
Oh, what do you know? Every single person you play with in that game fucking dies, and you know what? All of their deaths have meaning, and on top of that, all of their actions have meaning, and everything that happens to that game has fucking meaning, and you know what? Well, I hate to say it, guys, this is going to be a very angry episode.
And I'm sure we'll get into it soon, but this is a thing, like Reach, that like the planet, as a fictional planet, is a great candidate to play around with. I mean, it's before the storyline of the games that everyone cares about. You have, a lot of this unknown plot and war and things happening there, as well as like the origins of where these Spartans come from. Like, everyone should be interested in this, right?
The best way to describe it is this is like the Halo equivalency of like fucking Alderaan from Star Wars before the Death Star comes into view. That's the best way of putting what Reach was. The entire time you're playing, you're like, oh no, something bad happens to Reach. From the second you're on that planet, you're like, oh shit, something's gonna show up. And every single level you're playing in that game, you're like, this isn't good. Shit is bad. Because every single level of that game, people who are fighting alongside you, who have names, who have voices, who are specifically are above you in terms of rank and whatnot, they are dying left, right, and center. And you go, oh, this ain't gonna end well.
Well, and the thing about this game is, they're not burdened with having to continue the story from Halo Reach, where it's just been like, beat the Covenant and then beat the Covenant again and then beat the Covenant again. They don't have to continue that. Now they can explore what happened before. So they really wanted to make a more character-driven story, and they wanted to be sure that that players still feel a sense of accomplishment at the end of the game, because as we all know, Reach gets destroyed. Spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't played the game.
Not to say that it gets destroyed, it gets glassed. It gets turned into a giant ball of basically glass, literally. They superheat all of the sand and soil on that planet to basically turn into one gigantic Christmas fucking bulb on a tree.
So yeah, they wanted to do a character-driven story, which before now it's just been, Master Chief being all quiet and broody and letting you kind of wonder and put yourself in their shoes and whatever else. Now they're developing these Spartan characters, and they're also trying to finish the game with a sense of accomplishment, even though everything, like Elmer said, gets turned into glass. So it sounds really difficult, but I mean, I really enjoyed this story.
I did too. Like it kind of dropped a second ago, my favorite of the actual Halo series was Halo ODST, in terms of that most of the cast in that game was actually like the voice of most of the people from Firefly. And then the other person that they decided to throw in there was Starbuck from, what do you call it? Battlestar Galactica, in terms of... So basically the casting of ODST was basically just going, oh, hey, what are some popular actual sci-fi series of this era? Let's just toss them in there and have some fun with it. As much as I had a lot of fun with ODST, when it comes to an actual complete Halo game, ODST is probably my favorite. In terms of just implementation of a single player, as well as multiplayer, as well as just sort of the co-op multiplayer when it came to the actual sort of horde mode that they had in that, which, what was the name of that again? It was... where it's basically you holding out and you're fighting against like waves and waves of Covenant. What was the name of the game? They introduced it in ODST and I can't remember the name.
I don't, honestly, I don't know if I've ever played more than 10 minutes of ODST.
Well, they added it to Reach as well, and they've had it in every other Halo game since then. And I can't
you
remember
got
the
me,
name,
dude. You got me.
But no, their horde mode they had in that. No, we played a bunch of that back in the day, and it is still, to me at least, when I think of the most complete Halo game, well, as much fun as we had back in the day playing 1, 2, and 3 of Halo, and as much as I love ODST, Halo Reach, to me at least, is the ultimate in terms of this is gameplay as well as storytelling combining, where in terms of where you want to give the characters feeling and motivation and emotion and stuff like that. I actually really love Reach, and to this day I still hold my copy very dear to myself.
It was one of the few, it was like one of the first Halo games with character, you know. So it was great. But yeah, it was originally
Firefight, that's the name of it.
Firefight,
Yeah, no,
gotcha.
Firefight as well as the multiplayer. It all just worked in tandem. So none of it felt like one thing was overreaching to another. The single player campaign where you could do multiplayer with that, Firefight, and then on top of that the multiplayer. All three of those just melded together, and it felt like the most complete version.
Was this? I can't remember. Did Halo 3 have online co-op?
Yes, it did. Yeah.
Okay.
Where you would be able to play as Master Chef as well as 3 other elite Covenant members.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if that was online or local.
You could do both.
Local LAN only.
You could do both.
So yeah. Anyway, Reach was originally intended to be a port of Halo 3, which would basically just reuse their assets and like update the textures a little bit or something maybe. But the thing is, Halo 3 it had to be shrunk down to fit inside the game engine's constraints for Halo 3. So with Reach, now that they, it was towards the end of the 360's life and they were really able to flesh out graphics and understand how things worked a little bit better.
Did you just say Halo 3 was or Reach was?
Halo 3 was shrunk down to fit into the game engines.
That's funny because less than 3 years before was when the fucking 360 came out.
Yeah, but it wasn't a limitation of the 360. It was a limitation of the game engine that they used to make the game.
So wait, what engine were they utilizing at that time?
I think it was one that they made themselves right after Halo 2 came out.
So
it makes sense that, I mean...
Now here's the question though: did we touch on this? What the original engine that Halo itself was running off
of? Yeah, we talked about how it was an engine for an RTS game.
It was an engine for an RTS game, and what was the base model for it? I don't know if we ever touched on this.
I can't remember. I'm kind of getting derailed here.
My apologies that I'm derailing you this much. Let's put it this way. I know this off the top of my head because I'm a big fan of Games Ahoy off of YouTube, who people who are watching or listening to this, check his out, Games Ahoy, Xbox Ahoy. He goes into detail during his episode where he both talks about the original Half-Life as well as the original Quake engine. I'm getting to that right now. The original Halo engine was actually a base model based off of like a 2.0 model version of the original Quake engine.
I can see it.
That's not a joke either, guys.
I can see it. Okay.
Sorry.
So no, that's all right. That's all right. So yeah, they were forced to shrink parts of the game for Halo 3 to meet the engine constraints. They wanted Reach to look better than Halo 3,
which it did.
Which it definitely did. So the more they were looking into, reusing Halo 3 assets, the more they found that it realistically wasn't, something that they should rebuild each asset from scratch, just to get this huge increase in quality. So they they decided, instead of porting all these assets over, to just get a whole new engine, just start over. So, for example, the texture resolution and polygon count for the models were a lot different than in Halo 3. So the Reach assault rifle has more polygons than an entire Marine from Halo 3.
Which is kind of funny, because if you look at all those games, they've always, because of how Halo was, made for the Xbox, so to speak, and the entire time they've been saying with the Xbox, oh, hey, this is basically, it is a computer tower that is put into an actual game system. So you're getting PC quality graphics on an actual entertainment system that you plug into your television, so to speak.
I mean, that's the whole point of the Xbox.
Exactly.
Yeah. DirectX.
But here's the thing, though. Even as an 8-year-old kid, when the original Xbox came out, I remember seeing the trailer on TV for Halo. I just went, though that looks like a lot of fun, and that's a really fun cartoony graphics as well as cartoony sort of world that it's building on. So whenever with any of these Halo games they try to make it look realistic or try to make it feel like it's a real world, I'm just like, no, if anything, make this feel like fucking Banjo-Kazooie, if anything else, than anything else.
Yeah, where was I? Okay. So yeah, it had more polygons than the Marines. The concept of the game being a prequel also kind of gave like the art team and direction in that aspect a lot more freedom. So they were able to redesign enemies, weapons, and elements of the series altogether, which I mean, I think they redesigned the grunts.
They added a different type of jackal into the game, the skirmisher.
Yeah. Didn't they change? They changed something about one of the guns, right?
They changed a few different guns in that, which one thing that I did really appreciate about that game in terms of higher difficulty is that unlike the other games where it's just like, oh no, all the enemies are bullet sponges, when you're playing Reach, you're like, oh, this is like the prototype version of the guns you have in the later games, and you're shooting against all these other characters, you're like, oh shit, this doesn't do jack shit against them. Oh crap. You gotta change up your actual fighting style to it compared to the other Halo games, so that is one thing that I did really appreciate too.
Yeah, I really liked this game. But yeah, so they redesigned the game engine. They redesigned a few elements of the game. They even remade the software that handles like the 3D rendering and things like that. So I think this was the first Halo game with mocap. So Bungie they hired a motion capture expert to develop more realistic character animations, and they built their own in-studio motion capture to save them time and money, because they could record motion capture data and then apply it to a character model in the same day. So it really helped them speed things along, and motion capture, it just makes things look so much better when you're making games.
I'm about to say something that is gonna basically, it's gonna piss people off, but I'm gonna stand by what I'm saying. I to this day still say that motion capture killed any type of artistic licensing that video games ever had once it was introduced around the same time in about 07 through about till about 2011. I still say that motion capture killed the artistic licensing when it came to video games. Because the reason I say that is because the whole point when it came to video games of that era playing it is that video games were able to add maybe not quite a beyond sense of realism, but it was able to add. It made you feel like you're part of that universe, and when you're playing with it, you're like, okay, I can see how this character is able to perform this action here, there, and everywhere kind of thing. Once you start implementing actual real-world physics into it, as well as actual actors acting in this way, that way, in terms of that they're able to control their characters, I think that kind of steals away from it a little bit. The best way of describing it is imagine sort of like animated film prior to Avatar, and now what the world is like after Avatar.
Yeah, I could kind of see that, but I also don't see that there's a way to be without motion capture at this point, because
Doom Eternal.
If you want things to look realistic,
Doom Eternal.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I can see where you're coming from, but I also disagree to a point.
What I'm saying is, though, when you have scripted moments in it and it's motion capture, you know exactly when it's... It is the So they talked about when they were making the original Doom 3, they tried to get away from the scripted moments, what they called the Scooby-Doo moments, where all of a sudden, oh no, that wall looks like it's about to break open, and the wall breaks open, and you're like, oh wow, there's a monster behind the wall. They tried to get rid of that. To me, at least, whenever you can tell that a scripted moment's about to happen, you can tell, oh, would you look at that? It's motion capture. Oh no, what is gonna happen here? And I'm sorry to say, it just kind of comes around where it's just like, yes, it is it is better acted and better performed, but to the same extent, you can tell right is when it's gonna happen.
I'll let you believe that. I have like a half a paragraph left here, so let's
apologies.
Let's get this finished real quick.
I'll let you get through with that because I got a section to go through.
Okay, so motion capture. So the developers wanted to increase the replay value by improving like little like quality of life things, like the artificial intelligence, like little things in the animation, just to make it hold up to the test of time a little bit better. And I will say, Halo Reach was the first Halo game with like good AI. I think. So rather than scripting enemy encounters, they focused more on an open world approach to the battles, where you'll be walking through the woods and maybe you'll encounter an enemy who then runs away and gets more people to come and fight you, and maybe you won't encounter them at all. It's if the enemy wouldn't see you and trigger that event, then it's not like a scripted battle there all the time. It's just whether how you approach it. So it was really cool. They did a great job of this new like gameplay concept, and it was really refreshing. So yeah, like I said multiple times, I really liked Reach. Like I loved all the Halos, especially Halo 3, but this was one of the, I think it was the first Halo game that came out after we graduated high school.
It was.
And so I didn't have, all the teenage guys around me every day hyping me up about it. I was able to get hyped about it on my own.
Let me get over here and butt chug some gamer fuel. Let's go play some Halo. Yeah, you didn't have that going on around that time.
But yeah, so the game was released in September 2010. Before its release, Microsoft listed Halo Reach as a digital download on the, what was it called, Microsoft Games on Demand at that point. They listed it at a price of 99,999 Microsoft points, which is just under $1,300 US. A spokesperson for Microsoft said that the download was for media review purposes and that there was no plans to distribute the game publicly through the Games on Demand service. But 4 days after they put it up on the marketplace, hackers managed to access, download, and distribute the game massively online. So, nice try, Microsoft. Stupid assholes.
More of the stories, Pirates, FTW.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so I loved Halo Reach, and I'm really glad that in 2019 they finally added it to the Master Chief Collection. But yeah, what do you think, Elmer?
Well, kind of when I've been a little snide in terms of when I've been talking about different points of this game, but no, I will concede I really love Halo Reach. I had a lot of fun playing this back in the day. Had a lot of fun with it in terms of both the multiplayer, the firefight, everything. Like Levy said, it was right after we graduated from high school, so it we weren't quite doing as much, say, like split screen multiplayer or anything like that. But at the same time, just the fun we were able to have via just couch multiplayer, it was fantastic enough. I mean, I can remember him sitting on my couch when I was living in Pennsylvania. Friend of ours had this. We plugged it into my my roommate's Xbox, and we had a great time with it. And I may, maybe Reach feels like it was a omen of things to come when it comes to the game industry, in terms of how I don't feel like the game industry changed for the better down the line. But at the same time, I do feel that for what it was when it came out and to what it still is, it still stands the test of time of probably being the best standalone Halo game.
Well, and the cool thing, like one of the cool things that I really liked about it is because it was a prequel, they really took a lot of inspiration from the first Halo game, which for me was great because the first Halo game is the one I've probably played the most of. So yeah. But what'd you find out? You're talking about the Paramount series today, or what are we?
Yeah, that's what I kind of decided upon. There's a few different branches and a few different ways I could kind of talk about when it comes to this Halo series. Beyond going to the actual series itself, which I could kind of do, but it's not quite nearly as interesting as what I could do. If anything, one of the things that always stares us right in the face when we start watching is produced by Amblin Entertainment. And if anything, I feel like it'd be more important to talk about what Amblin is and why exactly that makes sense. So, ladies and gentlemen who listen to this podcast, I'd like to introduce you to a little-known figure when it comes to filmmaking named Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg was the son of a World War II veteran who basically he was a war brat or he was a soldier brat. He moved around all over the United States, all over the world pretty much because his dad was a higher-ranking officer in the U.S. military, and that caused him to go from here, there, and everywhere. Growing up, he had access to a lot of the sort of pleasure films of the era. Because, I mean, let's put it this way. When you're going to be growing up on an Army base, or a Navy base, or a Marine base, or whatnot, the thing that they're going to be showing on the screens to make you excited are going to be, say, war movies or sci-fi movies. Something that actually gets you excited. You're not going to be watching the newest version of, like, you're not going to be watching fucking Marnie or Marty or anything like that. You're not going to be potentially maybe The Wizard of Oz that has, like a visual flair to it, but you're not going to be watching, General Hospital or something like that is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. So
what's available to you, pretty much.
Right.
Which Steven Spielberg in and of himself has said that is what actually inspired him. I mean, you look at, say, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Wait, so did Spielberg work on this?
With his production company, Amblin.
Oh, interesting.
So with that, to kind of roll into that quickly, Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, that was inspired by sort of the serial pictures of the late 1930s, early 1940s of kind of like the adventure serial, where it's just like, oh, we have to, I am an adventurer, I'm finding archaeology and stuff like that, and I have to get from point A to point B. I'm fighting snakes, I'm fighting Nazis, I'm fighting this kind of thing. You see some of these old serials from the late 30s, early 40s, and you're like, oh no, that is exactly where that comes from. Spielberg himself, he graduated high school, I want to say like the late 1950s, started doing like smaller sort of short films. He did a movie in 1968, a short film called Amblin, which was about two people who are hitchhikers during the hippie movement who come together, they find and bond together in a love story. And that is literally it. It's 45 minutes long.
Right.
It's sweet, it's cute, it's cinematic, it's fantastic. Right after that, he directed a TV movie based off of a script by a gentleman named Richard Matheson, the guy who actually wrote the story I Am Legend that later became basically inspired the zombie movies as we know it, as well as the Will Smith movie that we know it. Okay. And did Duel, which is a really good film. It's kind of a chase movie involving a trucker versus just some random guy in a highway in a truck, which anybody who, basically lives in the Midwest here and has a trek miles and miles away and gets basically caught up with anybody in the interstate, get pissed off whoever chases after him or starts tailgating him. You'll understand the movie.
Okay.
Anyway, that was 71. Right after that, he got hired to do a movie, I believe it was 72, called Sugarland Express. Doesn't really matter. Another TV movie. Anyway, 75, he releases Jaws, which onto the world is the first, if you don't count, like, say, Gone with the Wind, or The Wizard of Oz, or Planet of the Apes, it's the first modern blockbuster, is what Jaws is. It's basically the thing that, released around the United States, gets people excited to get into it.
Right.
After that, Spielberg is considered to be, basically, if you want a big movie, you hire fucking Steven Spielberg to direct it. After that, just Close Encounters of the Third Kind, E.T., Jurassic Park, you name it, Steven Spielberg directed it.
Yeah.
Around the early 1980s, he creates his own film studio called Amblin Entertainment, which they take the name Amblin off of Ambling, They use that to basically create like family-friendly sort of films. Some of the first films to come out with that is E.T., movies from our past, Harry and the Hendersons, Gremlins,
Yeah, good Spielberg movies.
at least produced by him. Batteries Not Included.
That's a good one.
I'm just trying to think off the top of my head quickly. It's kind of a hard one. All of a sudden, he's like, Harry and the Hendersons, like I said, E.T., Arachnophobia, a lot of Joe Dante stuff from that era.
Yeah, I think we got the picture.
Basically family friendly, at least in an idea of just saying like larger scope, smaller scale kind of movies, where it's just like, okay, this is a small scale in terms of this is a people movie, but it has a greater than scope of what's going on. Around that same time, he's producing those. Back in '97, he creates with a combination of David Geffen, who is a major music producer within Universal Musicscape, as well as Jeffrey Katzenberg, a gentleman who was working for Disney at the time. He had previously worked for Paramount, who had helped to produce Raiders of the Lost Ark. They created DreamWorks, which to this day, for anybody that is our age, we know fucking DreamWorks as the people who gave us motherfucking Shrek. They later went on to do like Saving Private Ryan for production and whatnot. Bigger movies, higher acclaim, higher production value, but at the same time, movies that you're just like, this is not what the normal studio is going to do. Anyway, how that falls into Halo, Steven Spielberg is a big, and I mean big, video game fan. And around the time that Halo came out, he started taking notice and going, oh, I can see the importance of this. I want to get behind this. So actually, around the time that Peter Jackson was getting into Halo, going, oh, hey, I'm going to use Weta to produce the short films for production of the game, or for like Halo 3 in terms of their commercials that they did, stuff like that. Trying to get the ball rolling with Microsoft to try to make the actual Halo movie underneath Neil Blomkamp. Around the same time, Spielberg was kind of getting that under the wing and going, hey, if you guys do this, I really want to be part of the production behind this because I can see the promise here. After that, kind of shit the bed, Spielberg has still been behind it going, if and when this gets done, I want to be behind it.
Yeah.
Anyway, back in 2015, 2017, DreamWorks died. They basically killed it after pretty much anybody who's seen any of those fucking DreamWorks movies of that era knows that those all tanked at the box office because they weren't Shrek related. And anyway, from there, Spielberg kind of rolled back a lot of the productions from there and added that to the Amblin timetable. Amblin, DreamWorks and Amblin, which were part of originally the the Universal subsidiary, they decided, we're going to kind of roll that back from Universal just because underneath their thumb, this isn't really working. They went back to Paramount. Now with the production of Paramount Plus coming out in the past few years, that is where a lot of stuff that was been produced by Spielberg has kind of been dropped. Especially like, say, Ready Player One and a lot of the IP like that. Hence where we're at today. You watch this show and you can really see a lot of the Steven Spielberg fingerprint behind it. May that be for the better or the worse in terms of the small character storytelling beyond the bigger picture, which I'm not sure that's where we should have gone with Halo, to tell you the truth.
Maybe I'm not picturing what exactly, the Spielberg fingerprint would be referencing, but it doesn't seem like anything of Spielberg's that I've enjoyed.
This feels more like Always Spielberg, less like Saving Private Ryan. This should have been Saving Private Ryan, the fucking series, aka Band of Brothers in the Halo universe. This feels more like Always, aka Post-Traumatic Stress Syndrome, the motion picture.
All right. So what else happened with this series? Like, was there anything crazy like during the development, or was it basically just a cash grab for Spielberg?
Spielberg basically executive produced it in the same regard that he also executively produced the Transformer films that, unfortunately, since the third one, have basically kind of dropped in dividends. Internationally, they've been skyrocketing, but nationally, they've kind of been dropping, which is one of the reasons why, with the release of Bumblebee, that was actually the last major DreamWorks film to be released.
And that's fine, because, end on a kind of a high note, right?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. No, I hate to say it, while I understand the actual personal connection that this show has with its characters in terms of you want to actually try to humanize, say, the human weapons that are the Spartans, simultaneously, that should not be the focus of this series. And the fact that that is what they focused on, I think, is one of the major failings of the series as a whole.
Yeah.
If you were to focus on the Marines that are fighting, trying to fight these aliens, and I mean literally aliens, there is nothing about these things that feel human other than the fact they're bipedal and, they are running at you with firearms going off.
Especially not the animation.
Mm-hmm. But, if you were to focus on the Marines, their interaction going, what the hell is going on? And then you just have the Spartans running alongside them and going, you gotta get from point A to point B, follow me kind of thing. I think that would feel more Spielbergian, more Amblin-esque more than anything else. If you were to actually go from the Marines going, if you were to do the post-traumatic stress syndrome, the military-industrial complex, from their perspective of going, I am fighting for my planet, what the hell is this gigantic robotic monster telling me what to do while I'm trying to save my people?
Yeah,
yet they're telling me, forget your people, save that giant artifact that's floating midair right there. That, if anything, I think would feel more episodic and better.
Yeah, no, if there was more things to get you excited and get you invested, this show is 9 hours of Halo, and there's about 30 minutes of combat.
30 minutes of combat. Let's put it this way. 9 hours of Halo the series. Maybe an hour and a half of actual Halo the series going on is the best way to put it.
Yeah, so I was kind of trying to keep a little bit of hope for this series to resolve with the finale on a high note that was exciting and got me invested, but it didn't. And there was an attempt there, I guess, to be fair. I mean, they did leave it on a cliffhanger. But, man, I was telling Elmer earlier, right after the finale ended, it was like, they could have really just done this entire storyline and everything in about 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, there's about 3, maybe 3.5 episodes of useful, engaging information, and then the rest was kind of just noise. It was so bad watching, especially episode 8, today, that Elmer and I would just be talking for 20, 30 minutes, and then realize, oh yeah, stuff has been happening, and then we watch for 5 minutes and immediately know exactly what's been happening. And
let's put it this way. I have felt bad the entire time we've been talking about this series, and we talk about how this series is not Halo, and we sound like nerdy fanboys going, this isn't my Halo.
That's the whole point of the podcast,
kind of thing.
Right?
Let me put it this way. For anybody that listens to this and thinks that we're a bunch of whiny fucking fanboys talking about this, let's put it this way. When I decide to sit down and I want to watch Halo the series, when I think about the games I grew up with and I had a lot of fun with, what I'm thinking about is the United States basically which is what the UNSC is. It is basically the United States version of a military, may it be a Marine Corps, maybe a Navy or whatnot. It's that is the equivalency. It's the United States military, the United States Marine Corps, whatnot, going through space, fighting against an extremist group, which is what the original games were. It was basically a satire of what was going on through basically our military actions of the time, and us trying to understand why exactly we're fighting against them at the same time.
Right.
This series is basically Generation Kill / The Hurt Locker set in the Halo universe. Now that is fine, but that is what I was not advertised or nor what I want to be a Halo series. An actual military-industrial complex satire is not something and not even a good satire. This is more or less just people going, okay, why is this sitting in a room going, why is this bad?
Yeah, this was all, so the 3 big story hooks for this show was, number 1, the political drama between are these human weapons morally right, morally wrong? Should the government control them? Drama, stupid drama. Hook 2 was what happened to John's childhood? Is he ever gonna feel happiness again? Is he gonna discover and remember things about his past? You know, like whatever. Like how is he connected to these artifacts? Things like that. And then number 3, Quan Ha. What the fuck does she have to do with anything that's going on?
Moral of the story, completely dropped halfway through the series, if not even further than halfway through the series. There are
Yeah.
different factions that want to be away from this actual
So-
unionized version of the UNSC.
Quan Ha wasn't mentioned or referenced once in the last 2 episodes.
4 episodes.
In the last 4?
I want to say about 4, yeah.
At least 3, yeah. It's just like the series was like, yeah, here's this thing, and fuck it, who cares? Nobody cares, so they probably dropped it. So that, you know, I don't know. I like knowing more about Halo things, even though this isn't canon to the Halo story. But it couldn't, like, this, it should be a no-brainer. This show should be printing fucking dollar bills right now.
This should be James Cameron's Aliens, the
Yeah.
fucking series. And I'm
Instant
saying that as
home
somebody...
run.
I'm saying that as somebody who's ever watching this on Twitch. I have a motherfucking xenomorph on my arm, alien tattoo. Something that was the actual inspiration for the Halo games. I love James Cameron's Aliens. I love that fucking movie so hard. This should be Aliens, the fucking series. And you know what? They don't. This is Generation Kill. This is fucking over there.
They messed up. It reminds me a lot of like what is kind of happening. I don't know if anyone's been paying attention to Sonic Frontiers, but it's like, okay, they mention we're making an open world Sonic game, and your first thought is that sounds fucking awesome. That should be a home run. That's an instant hit, right? And then they show it to you, and they go, "This is what we have," and everyone goes, "What have you been doing for the last 4 years?" You know?
I'm just gonna say it right now. This hurts to say, but this, and by what you're explaining with Sonic Frontiers and stuff like that, it just sounds like a giant developer circle jerk. I hate to say it. It really does. It just sounds like we're gonna add greater and bigger ideas onto the story than what we really should be applying to a video game series.
Yeah.
And it's just like you're just jacking yourselves off in terms
It
of
gets passed between too many corporate leaders who don't know they don't know art, you know.
And let's put it this way: as an actual artistic purpose, I will give it to the Halo series. Is it an okay representation of the military-industrial complex as well as post-traumatic stress syndrome?
For sure.
No, definitely. That's a great way to do it. However, is Halo the best representation of where you should be applying that concept to?
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, it was made by very talented people, very talented actors. Like the information they were giving out was, you know, written extremely well. It's just we don't fucking care. It's Halo.
It's Halo.
Give us Halo. Yeah. What was it? It was maybe last 20 minutes of the finale episode. We actually saw Halo, but they didn't actually go there. They were just only there in a vision. You'll have to stay tuned for season 2 to see fucking Halo.
Spoiler alert. Cock tease of Halo.
Yeah. So, I mean,
and don't get me wrong, guys. I love A24. I love impressionistic and like feelings of like science fiction and eldritch and all kinds of things. I love the feeling of impending dread when it comes to this. I like the idea of in films feeling a greater sense of understanding of like why you're fighting for something. I love all of this. Halo is not the fucking place you should be talking about.
All right, and
this.
so here's my hope. My hope is that they kind of realize what happened with season 1. They've confirmed season 2, or is it just planned? Do we know? Well, there's probably going to be a season 2, right? So my hope is for season 2 they at least know, hey, maybe we should go to Halo, maybe that we're going and or on Halo, that there should be a lot more conflict, and you know, interesting things happening. You know, maybe people don't care as much about whether we think cloning is morally acceptable or not.
This isn't Jurassic Park, nor is it fucking Westworld. What the hell are you assholes doing? And sorry about that. Somebody either decided to fire off a shotgun or a firework outside of Levy's house right here. So.
Yeah, no, that's the thing with this area. There's shit like that always happening, and I can never tell if it's a gun or not.
Gotta love Minnehaha.
But last night there was definitely about a dozen gunshots, like a mile or so away. So that's just like home. But anyway, let's see. Can we recap this quickly? The last 2 episodes were more of Spartan Chick, showing how strong she is and finding out she feels. What the fuck is
That's
that?
a firework going.
That's a firework. Okay. And then Master Chief and what's the Covenant girl's name?
I don't know. I just been
Marquise?
calling her Mini Lady Gaga this entire time.
I think it's like Marquise or something like that.
Marquois.
So
yeah.
Master Chief and Covenant Lady end up hooking up, and he has feelings for her, and there's kind of this whole thing where she's like, is she turning to getting on Master Chief's side, or is she still gonna stab him in the back? What's going on? She
Literally, she rips out her laser finger.
Yeah, she removes her plasma sword fingernail at one point, and really starts to tell Master Chief some secrets and things like that. So that's kind of cool to see. I was really kind of glad to see that she was kind of coming around and whatever. Then a bunch of bullshit happens. Dr. Halsey kind of starts going crazy and ordering the other Spartans to detain Master Chief and knock out the other Spartans and do all this shit. Ends up the Covenant girl, Marquise or whatever her name is, she escapes on a ship with the artifact, while Halsey escapes somehow. She uses a clone of herself to get captured by the UNSC, which then dies, and at that point they figure out, well, it was actually her clone, so where's the real Dr. Halsey? And then we get the very end of the last episode, the Spartans all coming together on this Covenant planet and fighting a war so that Master Chief can get the artifact, and in the process, what's her name, Marquise, Covenant lady, dies. Master Chief is sad because he had some feelings for her, and then he gets the artifact.
Maybe he gets to have visions of Halo, as well as potentially this new weapon might be.
Cortana ends up taking over completely Master Chief's mind and body so that he doesn't die.
It feels exactly like what it's like to start up a brand new HP computer, which I made that joke earlier during when it says last time on Halo. I'm like, Jesus Christ! It sounds like, hi, I'm Cortana. This is the new series we have now that we've gotten rid of Internet Explorer. Yeah, it's like, look, I love you, Jen Taylor, but kindly fuck off.
Yeah, no, she takes over his body. He has to create a username and password. He has to accept the end user agreement for Microsoft Edge browser. It's the whole thing.
After 2 quick games of Minesweeper and Solitaire, he's ready to go back and finish the fight. And
one of the Spartans ends up dying.
Does she die though?
Does she? I thought that's what you said. I kind of missed the last little bit because I was finishing up some notes.
And I ain't gonna lie, I was pretty plastered during while watching this after my long day, just kind of going, whatever. It's Halo. She's bleeding out, and I'm just like, I mean, y'all are Spartans and you have future medicine. Why the hell can't you treat that shit? But apparently, she was dying on the table.
No, this was the cool part about this battle is you got to see more grunts up close. You got to see more combat shots from the inside of the Spartans' helmets, and so you'd see little reticles popping up on the Covenant aliens, and then spin around. It was really cool. Got to see more brutes, more gravity hammers.
No, use of gravity hammers. They had fucking brute spikers, and they were shooting at the actual Spartans, and they were taking spikes to the arms and stuff like that. It was bouncing off their armor. It's like, oh, that shit.
Yeah,
it was
cool. It was cool. And what was it? One of the Spartans picks up a kneeler, and he's like, Oh, come to Papa.
He shoots 3 rounds, just like in the game, sticks in a guy, and they fucking turn into mist. And it was just like, oh, this is what I've been waiting for this entire
Yeah.
series. However, there was one little thing I did find out, which I was telling Levy here, which kind of made me excited. So they've had some of the prophets floating around here the entire time, and they look not great. They look like literally a floating ball sack.
So here's the thing with this whole scene on the Covenant planet. Almost the entirety of this battle scene was CGI animated, except for the few up close shots of Master Chief with his helmet off and this Marquise girl. Pretty much everything was CGI, and it good, not great. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
No problem. In the original game, in Halo 2, the Prophet of Truth was voiced by the fantastic character actor by the name of Michael Wincott, the guy who played like the main villain in the original Crow. He was later in Alien Resurrection. He's a guy who, fantastic character actor. Whenever he pops up in a movie, you go, "Oh, I remember him." I mean, kind of also because he sounds like this the entire time. He's got a really thick husky voice the entire time to it. You know, Devil's Night, my new favorite holiday. That guy from The Crow. He played the Prophet of Truth in Halo 2. In Halo 3, Bungie decided to mix it up a little bit to give him a little more gravitas, and they actually recast the character of the Prophet of Truth to be played by the great Terrence Stamp, a gentleman who previously had played General Zod in the original Superman 2 with Christopher Reeve. Later went on to be in... basically, you watch any movie from 1990 onward, he always plays a great villain or a fantastic character that has sort of dubious moral value.
So, who voiced the Prophet in this show, then?
I don't remember his name, but that is the gentleman who played PC Bob Walker in the fantastic movie that is Hot Fuzz. Bob Walker is the old guy who you look at him and you're like, that dude looks like he's about to drop dead. Apparently, he was like 60 when they shot that movie. He's like 75 now. That was the gentleman who, with a really thick Welsh accent, who's like talking and, the guy that's not Simon Pegg. Nick Frost. He's the one who has to decipher for Simon Pegg when they're standing there. It's just like, and Nick Frost like
translate.
He's like, what the hell did he just say? He goes, I just said that, hey, a hedge is a hedge. That's why he's cutting it down. kind of thing. And, so the fact that they brought this guy in to play the Prophet of Truth, I'm like, well, I really wish they would have brought Michael Wincott back simultaneously. I'm like, I approve of this. This is pretty bitchin'. This is pretty awesome. So.
Yeah, and it kind of ends, this battle finishes. Master Chief gets the artifact back onto the Pelican.
Yeah. Pelican.
So he gets the artifact back. One of the Spartans had a plasma grenade go off on their shoulder, so they're like, they got her on the medical table trying to fix her up. Marquise lady is dead, so Master Chief is like, oh shit, what do I do now? And then it kind of ends. So the whole plan is like they gotta use the Halo to destroy the Covenant, and then they'll figure it out from there. It kind of ends on this cliffhanger of showing Dr. Halsey wherever she is, wherever she escaped to, kind of just sitting there looking at the sky.
Now here's the thing I'm a little afraid of. They didn't show the destruction of Reach, which, of course, with Halo Reach is the kind of the incentive reason why they go to the original Halo array, because basically they're trying to lead the Covenant away from Reach.
But this isn't canon, and that hasn't happened in the series yet.
I know it hasn't, but what I'm saying is, though, do you think if they go on to do a Season 2, it's literally, all of Season 2 is going to be the Battle of Reach, and then Season 3 is going to be when they finally get to Halo?
God, don't drag this out that long.
I hope they don't either. I really don't.
Okay, we'll get into Bop or Flop right after this. If I can tell that they're actually going to get to the fucking point in Season 2, I will watch it. But I don't know. It might be like Elmer saying, they might just drag it out. And, as much as I love Halo, I'm not signing up for that. So
I'm the poor bastard who's signed up for a Paramount Plus right now. So
because they dragged it out so long, I am going to say that this series overall is a flop. But like I said, there's about 3.5 episodes worth of actual interesting, engaging, fun stuff, which I would definitely give that aspect of it a flop, or I mean a bop. But overall, definitely a flop. Too much bullshit filler storyline, waste of time stuff. I'm sure someone out there on the internet might make an abridged version that we can consume in about 4 hours time, which I would love. So hopefully that happens. But yeah, I'm gonna say this is a flop. Hopefully season 2 is better. What do you think, Elmer?
This is entirely a flop. I'm really sorry to say that, because a lot of the themes they have in this, I think, are very, very important today. I mean, the concept of a military-industrial complex, the concept of what PTSD actually does to the people that help to serve our country. I think that is something we need to actually touch on, compared to actually having every fucking movie showing Rambo, and that's what our kids want to grow up to be. I think that is something that needs to be said, needs to be told. Halo is not the fucking place to talk about that. Right. It really isn't. And that's the thing that hurts most about this, because I can tell everybody in this is giving their all. They're doing a fantastic job. I may make fun of Jen Taylor in this playing Cortana, and the fact that I have to reset computers almost every single day. So every day I hit 2 buttons, and all of a sudden within 30 minutes I hear, "Hi, I'm Cortana," and I just go, "Fuck off," and hit the mute button. So maybe that kind of colors me a little separate with that. But no, she does a great job for what she has to do on this. Pablo Schreiber, who is one of my favorite actors today in terms of television series, because he just keeps knocking it out of the park. I actually think he does a really good job at playing Master Chief.
Like the art and the acting and everything behind this was executed wonderfully.
The production design, the attention to detail, bringing in Bokeem Woodbine to play, a Spartan on the run. I think that's a great idea. I just don't think, if you're introducing this to everybody as being your first run season flagship Halo series, this is just not a good idea. Yeah. And I don't know who thought this was a good idea, but I hope they get fired. That's all I'm going to say. I hope they get fucking...
Well, like I said, at the very least, I hope that they can kind of take a step back from it, pull their head out of their ass, and make improvements for season 2. Because I'll give it another chance.
I will watch the hell out of an actual Halo series. Because I've said this for years. I have not played a Halo game since Halo 4. I played a little bit of Halo 5. I hated it. You couldn't put a gun to my head to make me play Halo Infinite right now.
I played a few hours of it. It's when it's not crashing, it's great. But unfortunately, after every single round, it crashes.
The world of Halo basically being sort of like almost a, Halo basically is a biodome that is a giant nuclear weapon site, and you're fighting literally around a biodome, waiting for Pauly Shore to pop up and go, "Hey, buddy," Magnum to the face, pretty much.
Want to wheeze the juice?
Hey, buddy, want me to introduce the Flood yet? But that's basically what the first Halo game is. To do a TV series based off of that, I would watch the hell out of it. I've been saying for years to actually have it where you have like a 3-hour Halo movie where people are fighting on this pristine, almost like nature preserve with a couple of like architectural remnants here, there, and everywhere, and then find out, oh, by the way, you're standing on a giant WMD. I think that's brilliant, and if you were to approach that correctly, it would be fantastic.
If they actually condensed this down into a movie, even a long, like 2.5-hour movie, that would have been a lot better.
Hell yeah! But, no, I would watch the hell out of that.
Yeah, for sure. But with that, you have our votes. Check it out. If I'd say anything, what was it? Episode 1 was good. Was that
5, I think.
5 was great, and then the finale. You could watch those 3 episodes and pretty much get the gist. I recommend those ones.
Oh, by the way, laugh your ass off anytime you see any of these fantastic actors standing around in like actual game accurate costumes, because you're looking at this and you're like, oh dear God, there's so much neoprene and fucking plastic on them that they look like they can't move a muscle.
Yeah.
They look like the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz.
So we got to be wrapping it up here. We've been live for an hour and a half almost. Yeah, check us out on gamelink.click. That's where you'll find our YouTube, my Twitch if you want to catch us live. You'll find our Patreon if you want to support us for some stupid reason. You'll find us on every podcast app and platform you could think of. Gamelink.click, you'll find everything there. So head over there, check us out. With that, I think we'll see if anyone wants to do a Q&A, and we'll get out of here. So we'll be moving on to another probably horrible video game movie next week. So I'm excited. I'm glad Halo Month is over.
I'm so glad Halo Month is over.
You have a great week, everyone.
Support us on Patreon. Support our alcoholism. Stay safe and stay sexy, folks.